All right, all right. Welcome to Life Change Institute and Life Change Live. We're going to try to figure out how to add a couple people to this Life Change Live. And we're going to see if we can do what to join this and invite Sophie to join this.
Hey.
There's Alex. Let's see what we can do with Sophie. This is going to be good. There we go. We are officially live. Alex is chilling with her coffee.
It's water.
Oh, my bad. I thought you needed the caffeine fix.
I do need the caffeine, but we need water.
Yo, Sophie, can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear. So everyone joining in, checking us out. This is Life Change Institute's Life Change Live, and I'm really just the host. I'm kind of like the guy that set up the infrastructure. So I'm gonna let the ladies that really do the real work take it away from here. So this is all yours. I'm just gonna watch and enjoy.
Okay.
So,
So,
good afternoon, my dear. You go ahead.
okay. I was just going to say, we are Sophie over there and Alex. I'm an LCSW. She's an LPC. And we're just here to answer your questions, kind of make therapy more accessible to those people who have questions and don't necessarily want to, make that investment.
Yes. I think it's important to be able to just kind of clear the air because there is a lot of, what do I go to therapy for? I have a lot of people that kind of come into the office and they kind of look at me like, I'm here, now what? And so this kind of helps to, I find myself having these conversations more often than not just to, introduce what therapy is and what we can do. And I love Life Change's entire mission because the whole point is to help people to just embrace who they are and their just wonderful abilities and just to change their lives to what they were always meant to be. So I love being here. I will say it has definitely changed my life being a part of this organization and stretching me and growing me to come into my own. So, push that up.
Yeah.
So excited to be here and definitely excited to see the questions that come in. But yeah, so I'm looking for, I know we've got to do a little bit of housekeeping as far as disclaimer.
Let me do this, so while you're doing that, while you're looking for that, because I don't know, for some people, they might be watching this later on, and they're going to wonder, why are only two people talking and not three, but this big-headed dude is sitting there on the screen as well, just smiling and looking like a show person, But I'm Salo, and I'm, one of the people on Life Change Institute and, a clinician as well. The purpose of this was really wanting to, like exactly what Sophie said, answer mental health, substance abuse questions, wanting to navigate real life, real time. And that was it. We don't know what's going to come. We're praying, like this is episode 1, but we're praying that as we do this, that we just get some stuff that we're like, whoo, and we really get some challenges. We want to show the validity and the reality that is not just getting help, but getting real accurate answers to our clinical stuff. So this is not just a life coaching sort of thing. I'm not hating on that. We're, seasoned professionals, but this is also clinical issues. And so we're going to do the best we can to touch on that. But that's why I'm here too. I'm just kind of here for day one. Y'all may not see me a lot. I don't know. I think this is in good hands anyway.
So Sophie, did you get the housekeeping stuff that we need to?
I have the housekeeping stuff. So just, full disclosure, the disclaimer statement, Life Change Live provides the perspective of mental health professionals in our jurisdiction and is in no way supersedes the advice of your assigned clinician, okay, and mental health or substance abuse providers. We also fully support the laws that are committed to the safety and the well-being of those who provide mental health services. We're here to answer questions. We are bound by the code of ethics for our professions and will report any homicidal or suicidal ideations. We're always running risk assessments, and so we want you to be safe. And sometimes that means we just need to be safe from ourselves. And so we're here to support that. So full disclosure, we will be providing that if necessary. We'll also report any evidence of abuse to the proper authorities. We want this to be an additional resource to help you transform your life to what it was always meant to be. We're here to help. We're here to shine light. We're here to provide some information, okay? And with that, I pass to my beautiful counterpart, Alex.
Okay, so I just saw a question that says, do you need a diagnosis to seek treatment?
That's a good question, man. I like that. To set it off with that one is perfect.
Yeah. The easy answer is no. Absolutely not. Like if you're having any kind of trouble in your life that you think you could even just use an outsider perspective on, then definitely seeking therapy is a great place to start. And, your therapist is going to talk to you about, what you want out of life, how you want your life to look, and they're going to go from there. So I don't know, Sophie, you had anything to add?
Yeah, no, I agree fully. The whole point is to help you reach, your highest quality of life and whatever that means. So there's always room for improvement. There's always room to grow. And so this is a really good place to kind of like explore that. I have clients that come in and they've worked through their substance abuse issues and concerns, and they're feeling really good, but they're not quite ready to like be without that support. So the goal is to look at, okay, well, now what? We answer those questions in therapy. And so, there's always room for improvement. As long as you're breathing, there is something we can be working on. We all have our stuff to work on. So
yeah, so here, let me add this part because I think it's key, and you ladies know this. You guys both work in outpatient, and we know this. It's important for folks to know you don't need a diagnosis.
no.
You probably will get one, because here's the thing about it. We know we wrestle with labels, but the clinician, the therapist, has to get paid. And
Right.
if you're going through insurance, they're going to ask for a diagnosis in order to pay for the services that you received. My encouragement, and ladies, take it from here, take it and run with it. My encouragement is that you, as the client, if you're seeking our services, that you know that you're going to get a diagnosis, because we got to get paid. That's the realities of this business. But be in conversation with your therapist about what that diagnosis is. Be okay with challenging that and explore that, but know that it's just one label and one opinion. Now, there's a lot more that goes with that, but you don't need one to come in. You may have one on paper. Take it from there. I mean, what do you guys think?
But it doesn't define you, right? It's all about information gathering. So I was working with a client just a few moments ago, and we were talking about, should she get a further, like a deeper evaluation to determine whether or not she was, dealing with something a little bit deeper. And so it never hurts to have a conversation, never hurts to gather that information. It's just data. And from there, we decide, okay, now that I have this information, here's how we can, cope to continue to self-soothe, increase that self-awareness. Know thyself. In relapse, or not relapse, but in addiction and recovery, we talk about the importance of knowing yourself. And what does knowing yourself really mean? It means that I have to do these things in order to be happy, healthy, and well. Whatever that means. You get to define it.
Right. And I think it's really important that you do talk to your therapist or your provider, whoever that may be. Like, what is my diagnosis? Why did you diagnose me with that? What are the alternatives? I mean, I frequent with my clients where I'm just like, this is the diagnosis I gave you. Do you have questions about that? Like, what are your thoughts about that? How do you feel about it? Some of my clients are like, I don't think that's accurate. And I'm like, okay, why do you not think that's accurate? Or some clients, especially in this day and age of like social media, they'll come in and say, I have ADHD or I have an eating disorder. And I'm like, okay, so tell me about that. What does it look like? How does it impact your functioning? Those sorts of things. I think it's really important to have those conversations about what is the thing that you're struggling with, and how is that label going to help you versus hurt you, and what are the resources that open up when you have that. So
That's good. That's a good point. So look, let me ask you ladies this, because this may be a question that's out there. Either somebody in the future, somebody's asking, wondering now, how do you, as trained professionals, why do you get the right to talk on this? Number one. Number two, how do you go about developing a diagnosis for me?
You want to go first? I can go.
I mean, honestly, again, oh man, I had my thought and I lost it. So I'm going to pass it to you, Alex. Go ahead. I'll chime right on.
Well, we all know Sallow wants us to say beds, right? I mean,
Wait. What are you talking about? Beds?
so beds is just a way we look at the different quadrants of your life and the way it's impacting your functioning, biological, environmental, developmental, social. What do those four quadrants look like? What's being impacted the most? How is it being impacted? And really, that's a great place for us to start talking about these things, and talking about I just lost my thought. I'm sorry. Where
does the problem lie, right? Where do we see the issues that brought you to come and talk to us? Beds is what we call in the industry biopsychosocial, biological, psychological, social. Beds is just kind of a more of a fleshing that out and really being more detailed. And of course, I'm partial to that because we developed it here at Life Change. But you want a therapist to really examine what's going on in your life, where the disturbances and the disruptions, and then come about it from there. So I think that's part of what Beds helps you to develop, and it gives you a more clear sort of picture of that.
Yeah, when we're coming up with a diagnosis, we're not just pulling it out of the air from what we see surface level. So Beds really allows us to kind of dig deeper into other things that you may or may not have considered to be areas of concern. And so the way that the Beds is set up is it lets us look into all four of those domains. So it can be very helpful information. And, from there, we're able to see what criteria you meet that supports that diagnosis.
Yeah. Do diagnoses change?
Absolutely.
Explain, because people may not know that from a substance standpoint and from a mental health. How does that work?
That's totally fair. So, I mean, and in fairness, insurance companies expect us to have a diagnosis after the first session. Yep. You're not always going to have an accurate diagnosis after the first session because you're only spending an hour with that person. You're only getting limited information. And as you spend more time with, your therapist and as a therapist with that client, you're going to start to see things come up, and you're going to start to see patterns and say, oh, we didn't really talk about this in the beginning, but it seems like this is impacting you, whatever that might be. And that could, impact the diagnosis and what that diagnosis is. Mm-hmm. And so I know for me, I'm always considering, like, is this diagnosis accurate? Are we really hitting on the key points of things that are impacting their functioning? Are we really doing the work that's necessary, or are we doing the work that's easy? I guess that's kind of my take.
Yeah, well said. No, I agree. And I follow that statement. I'm always looking for the new information and just ensuring that we are going a little bit deeper, that we're not just having a pleasant conversation, because, your treatment, it really does depend on what you bring to the table. And so, coming from a substance abuse background, and Salo can attest to this, I don't work harder than you do ever, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want recovery, if you want to get well, I'm here to help you. And I'll always throw things out there, hoping that you take it and run with it. But of course, always looking to ensure that I'm pulling and meeting you right where you are. And we're always—
You got to do the work. You got to do the work.
Yep.
Well, ladies, let me ask this. Listen, we are doing Life Change Live. As you can see, we're on IG Live. People are on their lunch break and they're scrolling, and they saw the live button kind of come up when they were following Life Change Institute. Why should they trust you two? And why should they listen to you as an LPC and LCSW and they're not even in your state? They don't know you from a hole in the wall. Why are we doing Life Change Live and trying to answer mental health questions when we're not even getting paid for it and y'all are on the screen? Why should they trust you?
That's a great question.
I come up with one every now and then.
Every once in a while. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the bottom line is that, the ethics that we follow and kind of the guiding principles and values, and that, of course, I can only speak for myself. That's a big part of my profession, my drive, a big part of why I do what I do in general, because I want to reach as many people. I want to help as many people. I want to get the resources. I want them to live the life that they were meant to lead. And whether that is, reaching out through a live or seeing somebody in a session or just talking to a random person in the grocery store, that's just the way that I live my life. And I want people to have the best they can. So,
yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Why should we listen to you, Sophie?
Because I love what I do. And I think that being in recovery or just being in treatment to be able to work this process allows us to live our best life. Like everyone should be afforded that same opportunity. We were never meant to suffer through this life. Yes, we, go through hardships and things are a challenge, but we should never go through those challenges alone. And I think there is like this stigma of going into treatment or having a therapist. And so we've kind of got these ideas, whether we got them through social media or we got them through, the TV or whatever it is that we were exposed to, right? Like I want to shine a real light on what it means to be in therapy, what you hope to gain, because there's a lot in it for you. And it's such a unique opportunity to sit and watch that growth in a person. So that's why I do it, because I love to be a part of the process. Definitely, abide by the ethics that are put in place, because if I'm going to help you, I want to be able to help you in the right way for reasons. And it's because I want to see people shine. There's so much miscommunication out there. Everyone has a different opinion, and I'm not going to say that I'm the expert on it because I'm certainly not, but I am committed to doing the best that I can for each person that's in the room with me. And I'm always looking for new ways to learn, always.
But you guys are on Instagram Live. We ain't laying on the couch, saying, how does that make me feel? How does that make you feel? You're on IG Live. This is going to go to Facebook. This is going to go to YouTube. And we've got, a few minutes to answer a question here. Isn't that a gimmick? Isn't that, like it's almost cheapening the therapeutic work?
I feel like you're putting your own stuff on this, because this is such a unique opportunity just to, again, normalize this setting. We need to be able to feel comfortable to look in the mirror and say, hey, like, maybe I wasn't meant to do this alone. Maybe I could benefit from having a conversation. Let me go in and figure out what this means for me. And again, I'm not the expert on it, right? So like I tell every person that comes into this office, if you don't jive with me, this is like a job interview. When you come into your therapist, put it on like a job interview. What do you need in a therapist? What's going to help you reach your highest potential? Do you need someone that's passive, or do you need someone that's very like on point, aggressive, and not taking the easy answer, right? You know what's best for you. So, come in and figure out what it is for yourself.
Yeah, I love that.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I tell all my clients all the time, the research shows over and over and over again that the number one factor that influences the benefit you get out of treatment is the rapport you have with your clinician. And so if I'm not the one, that's fine. I'm not going to take that personally, because I'm not for everybody. That's
Well, and you know what's funny, from when you look at it from a social standpoint, like I'm listening, and you're right, I'm setting up some of these questions in my own head. But the truth is, this is Instagram and social media. You're not going to have the depth of the rapport in the relationship. So don't expect these deep-hearted answers to some of the questions you may bring on a platform like this. We want you to see that it's worth it to seek help, like Sophie and Alex said. But you can't go in and say we're besties because we're on an IG Live broadcast. Like,
A really good question here, and I kind of want to just throw this out to the room.
Go for it.
It says, how do you get past... I'm sorry.
How do you get people
to see past the stigma of being mentally ill? I like that one.
Yeah, I really like that question too. So I know that a lot of my clients really struggle with that, and it goes back to that whole discussion of the diagnosis. Like, what does that diagnosis actually mean? And I like to tell my clients that every diagnosis is on a spectrum. Every diagnosis has a list of criteria, like sometimes this long, sometimes this long, and sometimes you'll check just enough boxes to get that diagnosis, and sometimes you'll check all the boxes. The reality is we all struggle with something, and the stigma against mental illness, I think, is really shifting in our culture, and I think that it's becoming more normalized. But getting people to see past, I think the best thing we can say is just normalizing it and recognizing that if we really wanted to, we could probably diagnose everybody with something.
No doubt. And on any given day, just drive home on the rush hour traffic, right?
Right, exactly.
What about the stigma for, being an addict, right? So we have mental illness, and you guys talked about that. What about the stigma of substance abuse and addiction?
I was working with this lady earlier this morning, and I loved what she said. She was talking about how she doesn't like calling herself an alcoholic, right? And she's like, it's not me being in denial. It's none of those things. It's I have to come up with my own definition of what I struggle with.
Right.
She was saying how, you know, I'm a person that loves to drink. I know that about myself. I know that I can't. I know that I shouldn't. And she outlined her foundation of why she chose to live a sober life and what was helping her. And with recovery, yes, we have this, you know, just for today and NA and AA and go to a meeting and get a sponsor and work all these things. But really at its core, it's isolating what you need to do, again, to be successful in your life, in your treatment. And so if you're creating that foundation and surrounding yourself with healthy supports, then you're doing it, right? You get to define really what recovery looks like for you and embrace it. Because it's all, again, it's all about changing away from what we were doing. And it's like putting in all of these healthy, you know, steps. Whether you label it as recovery or an addict, or maybe you have a problem with this, you get to define it. Your recovery is your recovery, so long as you are actively working towards the goal of living a better, healthier life as you define it. Nobody gets to define it. You do.
That's all right. What about the labels? We've got labels that you know, people are asking here now. People are going to think later on, right? Mentally ill, addict, person who loves to alcohol, that loves to drink, right? On you guys give and take on your experiences, mental health and addiction wise and substance abuse wise, and in your profession, what do you have to say about labels?
Labels are a limitation. And so whenever I'm able to, I try to isolate what are the negative connotations towards that label and where did it come from. And then again, it's also looking at the evidence that supports that claim in your life. Is this label going to help you further your recovery, or is this going to cause you to get stuck in the dysfunction that is that label? Wherever possible, I encourage people again to define it for themselves. What does it really mean? This is your life and you are the one that's living it. No one else gets to decide how you live it. Don't take what is not yours to take. So labels.
But are all labels bad?
No, not at all. I don't think so. No. But when we're talking about stigma and mentally ill versus addict or in recovery, there is a negative connotation that's associated with that. So much so that we don't talk about it. And it also becomes a barrier to us getting into treatment. So if that is a barrier for any person that I'm working with, that's the first thing I try to do, is to remove the negativity, to provide some information to help them come up with a working definition that suits their recovery wherever they are. How do you process that, Alex? I'm curious.
So I definitely see the negative connotations, right? We see that all over social media, in the news, and in TV shows and movies and all that stuff. I've also found that working with a lot of my clients, they find relief in that label because what they're experiencing is so common. It has a name. And they're like, oh, wow, I thought that was just me. And I'm like, yeah, it feels really isolating in the moment. But the reality and the truth is, again, we're all struggling. We're all struggling with something. You know, we can label.
Oh, we can't hear you.
In that it creates that. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Okay. I was saying, like, having that label creates that community.
Yes.
So there's a sense of belonging almost with the label. So there's both, right? There's the stigmatization that comes with some labels, like Sophie was saying, right? You don't have to just own these negative labels, right? But be able to kind of work through that. But then there's also an ownership that says, I belong to something now because I'm part of this. Right. But what if I don't like the label? I don't like that I'm diabetic. I don't like that I'm crazy. I don't like that I'm, you know?
Well, so first of all, we don't use the C word.
Ooh, are we not allowed to use that one? Come on now.
No.
Why not?
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Y'all tell me. I have no idea.
So in my office, I tell my clients we don't use the C word because it doesn't mean anything, and all it is a derogatory term. That's just my approach. And yeah, a lot of people don't like the label. And again, the label has its use, And you don't have to accept that label. You get to choose what label you accept, what label you put on yourself. You know, kind of what Sophie was saying. If that label is going to impact the way that you move and the way that you think in the world, then don't take that label. You don't need it. But if it's going to help you, if it's going to give you that sense of community, absolutely take it and run with it. If it's going to give you that sense of validation, that's what you need. The reality is the label doesn't change the truth, right? So whether you call yourself, you know, an alcoholic or a person who has a drinking problem, the truth is still the same. It doesn't change anything. So use what you need to get to where you want to be.
Gotcha. Interesting. I'll take it. I'll take it. I got no arguments. I'm fascinated by listening to what I love about this, obviously, right, is that we get, 2, 3, today we got 3, but 2 perspectives on a subject matter. And it's what's fun for people to see is that there's a couple of different ways to do this. And there's not a set one way to do this to achieve the ultimate goal, like Sophie had said earlier, of that peace, of that equilibrium, that homeostasis, that being okay with. And you guys bring 2 different perspectives based on your experience, based on who you've seen, based on your own journey. So that's really cool. I think it's cool. Y'all let me know if you think it's cool, man. Leave a comment later and let me know if you think it's cool, but I think it is. Maybe I'm biased.
Awesome.
Look, we're going to take maybe about 5 more minutes or so to just chat through this and then wrap up, because we don't want to go too long on the first one. What's important for these guys to know from you guys?
That you're not alone. There are resources. We're here. Bring your questions. This is a great opportunity to, bring in those. There's no bad questions, honestly. Like if you've got a question, this is where you can come to get that answer in a non-judgmental, very open way. We want to remove as many barriers as possible to help people reach their best. And if this is how we can do it, then fabulous. The door is open.
Yep. Absolutely. 100% agree. That's my biggest. I think if you take nothing else away from this whole conversation, I think that's the one thing I want people to step away with, is that therapy is not a bad thing. Therapy is an amazing thing. I might be a little biased, but I think everybody needs therapy.
Right.
No doubt. I agree. So you're not alone. Everybody needs help in some sort of way. Again, it's interesting because it's generational. I've got a few years on you guys and on some folks, but it's kind of weird coming on a social media platform to seek out or the beginning steps of help. This is weird for me.
I think it's awesome. I think that, of course there's the whole negative connotation of social media and all of that stuff, but I think this is an awesome way to at least get the conversation started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Take that one. Something just came in.
Yeah, it says, when in therapy, what is the end goal? As in, is there an end game? A cancer doctor treats you till the cancer is gone. How does that work for therapy? I think that's a fabulous question.
Wow.
I get this question all the time in therapy. I'll be really honest. I make my patients or my clients set the goals because it's not my life. I don't get to choose how you live your life. And one of the one of the questions I ask in the first session is, what does it look like to you when you're done with therapy?
Yes.
What does it look like when therapy is over? And really defining that for themselves, and then, and I always tell my clients this too, you get to change your answer tomorrow if you want to. Like, you get to decide, you get to build this. This is your life. You get to run it the way you want to run it. I'm just here to support you and help you get to that place. So
that's empowering, and it's empowering as a result, Alex.
Yeah.
Nice.
This is collaboration. This isn't just, the therapist telling the client what the client needs to do in order to be successful. Well, I see from where I sit, this is what you need. No, it's not about that.
Right.
It's leaving this office and putting it into practical application. And so if you didn't come up with the goal, if you're not a part of this, if you're not in this, then it will not work.
Yep.
So, and like Alex was saying, you can change your mind, you can change your goal, But the whole point of this goal is so that you can see those milestones, those little bits of progress that say, this is moving, this is going somewhere, this is changing and impacting me in a powerful way. And if it's not, then let's come back to the table. Let's readdress this to ensure that you can see your progress, because we don't want people just coming into therapy, you know, with this expectation that this goes on forever. Even in recovery, we want, you know, for substance abuse, we want you to be able to brag on yourself, take ownership of your progress, and constantly build and grow and go. And if you're not, then we need to reevaluate whether or not being in therapy is therapeutic and or appropriate. Right. And we can make, you know, alternative referrals there. So we should always be coming back to the table, and your treatment plan really dictates whether or not you're making progress. So every couple of months, we really should be coming back to the table. Every couple of weeks, we should be coming back to the table. Every couple of sessions, we should be coming back to the table. There is no timeline here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think you guys hit it. Like, I think that sometimes we are so challenged to want to find a finite, definitive sort of place to go, right? Like, you know, you look at a video game and it's save the princess, so I won the game, right? Won the race and whatever. But what is, you know, the goal is progress with each step, with each session, with each, right? And growth. And so, you know, sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes that hurts. Sometimes that's challenging. Sometimes that's great and exciting. But can with each kind of step say I'm where I need to be or where I want to be, and I'm good here. It's almost like a moving target. It's not just, you know, win the race or rescue the princess. There's a little bit more to it.
Right. And the other part is like, and this is a question I get from a lot of my clients. It's like, well, how often do I come in? Mm-hmm. That's up to you. You want to come in once a week? You want to come in once every 2 weeks? And, you know, I think ultimately the goal is just to have maybe like a checkup.
Yeah. Have a checkup, you're saying, and have a timetable that is agreeable to both of you, and a timetable that works with the rest of your life. Because while, you know, Alex will tell you everybody needs therapy, we also got to get gas and groceries and feed kids.
Yep.
I mean, you gotta do some of these things, and life happens.
Exactly.
Man, this has been cool, ladies. You know, so look, we hit about a 30-minute mark here. I promised y'all that we'd go a little shorter today. The goal, I think I had said, was like 45 minutes for this. But what's you guys' goal? What's the takeaway? What's next for Life Change Live?
Well, I would like to answer the audience's questions. I love the questions that were coming in today. Like, you know, what's the goal for therapy? That's a fabulous question. Everybody has that question. So bring your questions. I want to answer your questions. If not, I'll just talk. I like to talk. It's fun.
Man, what's the point of this, Sophie? Because she just wants to talk.
I mean, I'm a little Tar Heel who talks too much, is so my grandfather says. So
that's a Southern statement if I ever heard one.
Isn't it though? Well, can't hide that. But I'm with Alex. I want to answer some questions. I want to hear from you because I'm curious as well. I want to know what my clients think. I want to know what the general public thinks as it relates to therapy, and I want to help shine some light. And I can't do that without the people chiming in and giving us their questions. And I love the ones that we had today because it's important. They're valid. So yep. I know you just as much as you might want to get to know me. I don't know.
I think that's very good. Look, so then there's going to be another date. When do we expect to see this again?
I think we're doing this every third Friday of the month.
Every third Friday of the month. So that puts us at...
might be the same day, right? March?
It is March
18th.
March the 18th. At
March 18th, 12 o'clock. Grab it during your lunch break. Type in a question. I want to encourage folks to leave their questions as you watch this. Leave comments later on IG. Leave comments later on our Facebook. Leave comments later on if you want to catch us on the YouTube. If you want to catch us on our website, www.lifechangeinstitute.us. You know, we've got a lot of resources there, and we've got, you know, just ways to really connect with people. But this is going to happen again, huh, ladies?
Yeah. I think it's also important, if you don't want to leave your question publicly, you can send it to our DMs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've got the, you know, Life Change has that. You know, you can make a private message on there and we'll make sure we get it to these ladies. You know, I don't think that you're going to be seeing much of me on this. I think y'all got this.
All right.
So any parting words for you guys?
Thank you guys for tuning in. See you
Take
next.
care of yourselves.
All right. Listen, y'all, this has been great. Life Change Institute with Life Change Live, Alex and Sophie, bringing real questions and real answers. We want to transform lives to what they were meant to be. Join us next month and keep the questions coming. Love y'all.
Bye.